I entered the living room with Mark, a man I had secretly been seeing for months. John, my husband, was sitting on the couch, absorbed in a TV show. His face lit up with a smile when he saw me, but it quickly faded as he noticed Mark standing beside me. "John, we need to talk," I said, my voice trembling. John turned off the TV and looked at me, confusion spreading across his face. "This is Mark," I continued, pointing to him. "He wants you to share me with him, and we can't say no." John's face drained of color. He didn't respond. Instead, he stood up abruptly and walked out of the room, silent. The sound of the toilet flushing echoed in the stillness that followed, leaving Mark and me standing there, uncertain of what would happen next. Mark shrugged, his calm demeanor betraying no concern. We stood there in awkward silence, the minutes stretching on, each one thickening the tension in the air. I nervously glanced at the closed door, wondering what John would do, how he would react. I couldn't imagine the storm brewing inside him. After what felt like an eternity, I heard footsteps approaching. John walked back into the room, his expression unreadable, holding something in his hand, a small silver keychain that caught the light as it swung from his fingers. "What's that?" I asked, barely above a whisper. John remained composed, his gaze steady. "This," he said calmly, "is the key to a new beginning." His words hung in the air, heavy with meaning that I couldn't fully grasp. Mark shifted uneasily beside me, sensing the seriousness of the moment. John's voice was steady, but laced with quiet anger. "You bring another man into our home, into our marriage, and expect me to accept this?" His words pierced me like a painful reminder of the choices I had made and the consequences that followed. I swallowed hard, guilt and fear knotting in my chest. "John, He cut me off sharply, his tone cold. "You made your choice," he interrupted. "Now you both face the consequences." Without another word, he turned and walked away, leaving Mark and me stunned, unsure of what would happen next. A few minutes later, John returned, holding a small box, the one where we kept our wedding rings. My heart sank when I saw it. He opened it slowly, revealing its empty interior. "I flushed our wedding rings down the toilet," he said, his voice calm but filled with restrained emotion. "I guess we won't be needing them anymore." Shock and disbelief washed over me. The weight of his actions hit me like a punch. I exchanged a glance with Mark, who stood awkwardly beside me, unsure how to react. John placed the empty box on the table with deliberate care and returned to the couch. His posture was relaxed, but his eyes burned with a new intensity one had never seen before. The room fell silent, broken only by the distant hum of appliances and the ticking of a clock. I struggled to find words, to make sense of the turmoil inside me. "John, why?" I asked, my voice trembling. John's voice cut through the silence, sharp and full of hurt. "Because you brought another man into our marriage, into our home, and expected everything to remain the same." His words hit me like a painful truth, reminding me of the damage I had caused. Guilt gnawed at me, and a growing fear of what would come next settled in my chest. Mark shifted uncomfortably, breaking the tense silence. "John, maybe we should." "No," John interrupted firmly, his gaze fixed on me. "There's no we anymore." His words sank deep into my chest. The reality of what he had said, along with the symbolic act of flushing away our wedding rings, left me reeling. Tears welled in my eyes, a mix of remorse and helplessness threatening to overwhelm me. Days turned into weeks, and the weight of my decisions pressed down on me like an unrelenting storm. I couldn't escape the memories, the look in John's eyes, the finality of his words, the life I had destroyed. My nights were sleepless, plagued by dreams of what could have been if I had chosen differently. Mark had tried to be supportive at first, but as the days passed, his presence became less frequent. He avoided conversations about the past, offering hollow reassurances that we'd figure things out. Deep down, I knew he was slipping away, just as everything else in my life had. One night, as we sat in the dim light of my apartment, Mark finally broke the silence. "I don't think I can do this anymore," he said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. His words struck me like a dagger to my already fractured heart. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice trembling. He looked at me with a mixture of pity and regret. Us. It's too much. I thought we could make it work, but it's falling apart. You're not the same person anymore, and honestly, neither am I." Tears welled in my eyes as I realized he was right. The foundation of our relationship had been built on lies and betrayal, and it was no surprise that it couldn't withstand the weight of reality. Mark stood up, avoiding my gaze as he gathered his things. "I'm sorry," he said softly, his voice cracking. "I hope you find peace, but I can't be part of this anymore." And just like that, he was gone. Mark's departure left a hollow ache in my chest, a void I couldn't fill, no matter how hard I tried. I was utterly alone, left to grapple with the aftermath of my choices. My apartment became a prison, filled with echoes of regret and memories of a life I could no longer claim. Supervised visits with my children were a cruel reminder of what I had lost. Each time I saw them, their innocent faces lit up with joy, but the confusion in their eyes was unmistakable. They didn't understand why Mommy couldn't be with them all the time. Their questions tore through me, and I struggled to find answers that wouldn't deepen their pain. "Why can't you stay, Mommy?" my youngest asked during one visit, clutching a stuffed animal tightly to her chest. I forced a smile, hiding the tears that threatened to spill. "Mommy just has to stay somewhere else for a little while, sweetheart," I said, my voice cracking. John, always composed, attended every court-mandated exchange with a quiet but piercing demeanor. His presence was a constant reminder of the man I had betrayed. He never spoke more than necessary, his actions deliberate and detached. One day, after a particularly difficult visit, John stopped me as I turned to leave. "You've got a lot of work to do if you want to fix anything," he said, his voice calm but firm. "I don't think you understand the full extent of what you've done." I wanted to respond, to defend myself, but the weight of his words silenced me. Deep down, I knew he was right.